Hello everyone, today's poem is 江城子 by Su Shi, one of the masterpieces in Song Ci, the Ci of the Song dynasty. In my previous video, briefing the history and composition rules of the Chinese poems, the Tang poem and Ci of the Song Ci, is believed to be the two peak of the Chinese poem. So it has a unique name, its own name, Song Ci. So today we'll talk about this Song Ci, very famous Song Ci by Su Shi, and this is the first kind of Song Ci in my videos. Before go to the poem, I will list several features of the Song Ci so you can have a better understanding of the Song Ci while my introduction to the poem. First one, the sentence is in long and short, which means the length is not fixed. The second one, the Song Ci almost do not use the quotations from the classic literatures. So this made the Song Ci quite easy for normal peoples, and there's less or almost no guessworks. Third one, the Song Ci almost do not use 语助词, which is like in the one of the poem by Liu Bang, 大风起兮云飞扬, 兮 is the 语助词, or like 大海, so is the 助词, so it emphasizes on the your emotions. That's one of the 助词, and also 知乎者也, 知乎者也, and 的 like the French or like the Spanish de. So that's all sort of the 语助词, don't have too much meanings, but help on the emotional or the emphasize or help on the structure the sentences. So in the Song Ci, there's no such 语助词. So this actually is a balanced consideration because the Song Ci is more like a pop music. The poet use their most talent to select and choose and refine the words and characters in their poems. That's the most difficult things. Not to say they have to pay notice on the tones and up and downs. That's all pre-set up, is predefined. So that takes a lot of efforts. Okay, let's see. 江城子，乙卯正月20日夜记梦。江城子 is the rhythm's name, so the way of Song Ci is there is a predefined pattern of the sentence as well as the music, so the writers fill in the lyrics. So all the work is about the lyrics. So 江城子 was the name for the rhythms and the predefined patterns. 乙卯正月20日夜记梦, that's the name for this specific poem because there's so many poems titled with 江城子 as well because the rhythm and the sentence patterns. 乙卯 is the Chinese calendar name for the year, so we know the specific years he write these songs. 正月20, January 20th, still Chinese calendar. So normally it's in the end of January or February in today's calendar. 夜记梦 So he write this poem in the night and to remark the dreams he just had. So this title clearly describes the situation, the time, and also the place, because in the ancient time, not like today, we take a plane, take a high-speed trains. In several hours, we are somewhere else. Ancient times, we know exactly when and where the famous figures is. So at that time, Su Shi, the writer, the poet, was in the place of today's Shandong province, which is in the middle and east side of the China today. 十年生死两茫茫，不思量，自难忘. So this is just go straight forward. 10 years, and the people who still alive and the people dead, the both sides are not very clear about each other. Mang mang is something not clear and far away. So he goes straight and express real feelings. The feelings may be almost every day. 不思量, I never think about that. So it's quite strange. He denies. So the people is always in a controversy. Something always the deepest thinkings inside the poet's body. But he, by his instinct, he always want to deny because he has the life had to keep on his live. 自难忘. The third sentence is, I never thought about that, but the third sentence is, I never forgot that. By instinct, 自难忘, by instinct. So by instinct, he want to forget or don't think about that. And by instinct, he never forgot. This is writing about his past wife, who died 10 years ago. They married at the age of 19 of Su Shi and 16 of his wife. First wife, I should say. So his wife was from a scholar's family, so should be well educated and doing the family, manage the family pretty well. And these two have a very, very good relationship. But anyhow, the relationship is not all about, because the love didn't last, but something, the two people getting into each other, or they adapt to each other. You change your own way to adapt to the others, and the others change he or her himself and adapt to you. So that's the things more important. So that's the instinct. Something his ex-wife gave Su Shi, the poet, something he never had, and now it became an instinct. So that all this is always reminding the poet he can never forget, because he knows the instinct is not by his native, not a gift from born. 千里孤坟，无处话凄凉. So he's just getting more into details. 1,000 miles away, the tomb was in loneliness. That's the tomb of his ex-wife. because his hometown was in Sichuan near the Chengdu city, and they married there, and he buried his ex-wife there in his hometown. That's a tradition. The dad should be buried in the hometown. Actually, his wife died in the city of Chang'an when Su Shi, the poet, has a position in Chang'an, and 1 year later, he sent her wife's coffin and carcass back to the hometown in Sichuan province. So Sichuan and Shandong province, where the poet stayed for the moment, is 1,000 kilometers away apart, and his wife was alone. 无处话凄凉. So the first picture is 1,000 miles away in Sichuan province, and then this sentence get back. 无处话凄凉. He's talking about himself. I don't have a place. 无处, I don't have a place to talk about my human life. 凄凉, human life, sadness. Why is such? So the Western style is the flowers, but the Chinese way, so you serve the drink, the wine, you serve the foods, you serve you burn an incense in front of the tomb, and you talk about yourself and your sickness to the dead. You'll have a good life, or you have a very sad life. So the saddest thing is the poet is thinking about his past wife all the way for 10 years, but he has not has a chance to went to her tomb, and like a Euro people, to serve her drink, food, and the most important, talk to each other. The poet Su Shi was so sad he cannot go to her tomb to talk to each other for 10 years maybe. So he getting into some night dreams. It's not daydream because he clearly pointed out it's in the night, a night dream. 纵使相逢应不识, even if we met each other. So he think he went to the tombs, and in the dream, the two can meet each other. In the reality, the Chinese tradition is went to the tomb, talk to the dead, and feel with your heart and listen to the dead. So that's also the kind of talk to each other. And in this poem, the poet has a dream. So he's not in his dream not go to the tomb, but also they meet each other. 应不识, we shouldn't recognize each other. So they have lived for 10 years and just parted for 10 years. And Su Shi was in his just 40. Why should they cannot recognize each other? 尘满面，鬓如霜. The dust on my face, all my face. 尘满面，鬓如霜. 鬓 here. So here the hair all goes white. 如霜 the frost. So that means the hair all goes white. So he's just 39 or 40. So it's not just like old man. So 尘 尘满面, normally 尘 dust, we have several poems. 尘 always implies the lousy, tiresome, long trips, and sometimes the career is also like the trips. So it's all refers he lead a very humble life through his career life, because he was get a fame in the very beginning, in his very youth time, but he has a very unlucky career. He was always blamed and abandoned by the emperor. So all these 10 years with his ex-wife, and after, he always had a very humble life. So all this made him like an old man in his 40 years old. Okay, that's the first paragraph. 夜来幽梦忽还乡，小轩窗，正梳妆。So here we know in the first paragraph, still not his night dream. It's after his night dream, he's thinking of all the things about, and maybe it's the daily life or sickness, which is he's always think about his ex-wife. Oh, one more thing. He was so adored of his ex-wife. He married her cousin sister as the second wife. So that's Su Shi. So that's always can also explain the word 不思量，自难忘. So he never want or like to think back of his ex-wife, but he never can forget, because some sort of his ex-wife is always around him. Okay, let's go back to the dream. 夜来幽梦忽还乡. So last night I had a very dark dream. 幽梦 is dark, so it means the dream is not so clear. It's 10 years. It also implies the time is quite a long time. 10 years already passed. So 忽还乡, so I suddenly go back to my hometown. 乡 is hometown. Sichuan province. 小轩窗，正梳妆. So it just like to went back to the days with his ex-wife. The small windows. So this implies to today's bedrooms, or in the ancient times it means 闺房, the house or the closet the woman lives. 小轩窗, it means it's a very secret, and apparently it's not a big house. Anyhow, that's not the point. 正梳妆. So his wife was making up. So 女为悦己者容. So that means they have a so wonderful relationship. So her wife, even after married, is always try to make up herself to entertain her husband, the poet. 正梳妆. And this is the most sweetest memories for everyone, if you had. 相顾无言，惟有泪千行. Suddenly, the poem actually is right, not a word, but you can feel it. Suddenly, the poet realized even in the dream, 10 years passed. So looked at each other. And so this can go back to the last paragraph. 纵使相逢应不识，尘满面，鬓如霜. Why they they looked at each other and they said nothing because they almost cannot recognize each other, and maybe because they have departed for 10 years and they never had a chance to meet each other because Su Shi doesn't have the chance to go back to his hometown to go to the tombs, 相顾无言. And if the poet right here, they just embraced each other and cry out loud, yeah, it's sadness. Maybe it's a huge sadness. But here, someone you dreamed about for 10 years every day, and when you meet, you look at each other and you have not a word. So that's the immense, the most huge sadness. In the ancient time, we don't have the movies, so for most people, if you don't have experienced such a circumstance, such a huge sadness, it's hardly for you to imagine. But when you're reading the poems from others, more or less, you can feel it a little bit. And today we watch the movies. Maybe you know everything. So they have not a word to each other. 惟有泪千行. They crying silently, and the teardrops is in 1,000 drops. So I have 1,000 drops. That means it's a long time of crying, and you can just imagine. And we have so many movies. We definitely can find one movie or two movies like that. 料得年年肠断处，明月月，短松冈. We started from 10 years ago, and through 10 years, never endless thinking of his ex-wife. And fortunately, the poet have a dream, and in the dream, he can meet his ex-wife in the dreams. That's a fortune for him, because in the 10 past years, he didn't have the luck. And even the meetup was with immense sadness. Tell me, the poet or his ex-wife want do it again or not? Of course they want meet each other every day. So the excellent technique of this poem, I shouldn't call this technique, this is the true feelings of the poet. He think about day after the day. 料得年年肠断处. So I'm just imagine every year after 肠断处. So from this poem, we know it's exactly 肠断处 is the tomb of his ex-wife. So after today, every year, in the place of her tomb, 明月夜，短松冈. So the poem actually don't say a word what it would be like about him or his ex-wife afterwards. He go to describe the scenarios, the surroundings. It's a beautiful, clear, bright moon night, the moon again. So the moon is always thinking about someone remote, because the moon is the only thing can connect the people parted in the ancient time. Let's see, the poet and his ex-wife share the same moon, and they can look up to the same moon. So that's the only thing the parted people can share with each other. So 明月夜. So 月 is always, the moon is always something for Chinese people. 短松岗. 短松, the short pine trees. Gang is the small hills. So this describe the surrounding of the tombs in small hills, because he's a normal people. If it's emperors, they are with a huge tomb in the mountains. 短松, 10 years for the poet and for his ex-wife, such a long time and totally changed the outlook of the poet. But the pine tree is still young, it's short. 短松 is the short pine tree, still young. So here this is a typical Chinese writing techniques. There's two techniques. One is the poet sing the way of his ex-wife sings. 料得年年肠断处. So that's the synchronous. The poet pretend to be as his ex-wife and sing as her sings. 明月夜短松岗. So it's, his ex-wife is surrounded by the bright moons, by the short pine trees. And the second technique is when you are trying to express some feelings or write about the feelings, the sensation things, you don't write it direct. You write the scenery, surroundings, or some other sceneries. So here, you use the bright moons, the short pine trees, to as the endings. So that's another techniques. And this two short sentences is a famous sentence in 1,000 years. 明月夜短松岗. And also, we have a very popular song, 十年, 10 years. So I will recommend you have a search on the songs, the popular songs, and read about the lyrics. So it borrowed a lot of things from this poem. That's my personal feelings. So in this way, look at the 明月夜短松岗. It has such a deep implication. It's a loneliness in a clear moon's night and thinking about each other, thinking alone. 短松岗. So 10 years passed, and in the future, another 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years. So on the tomb, the pine tree is still short. It still has a long way to run. So just imagine the real scenario, a small hill with young pine trees, and the place is a place of thinking the dead or thinking the people alive. So they're thinking each other. That's a Chinese way. No matter it's dead or alive, the people in love thinking each other. And with the young trees, like the feelings, the thinkingness of each other, the feelings, is still quite young. There's a long way to run. So in this poem, the poet starting with something 10 years ago, and the current beings, and some of his suppose we don't recognize each other by the outlookings, and by the dreams they meet each other for the time now, and it's with such a huge sadness the meet up, but that's the things both of them want the most, no matter how huge the sadness is. Even with such a huge sadness, for the time being, they still think about what about the days after the day when they meet up in the dreams. The trees is still quite young. There's a long way to run. So you can see with such a short paragraph, 2-paragraph poems, 宋词, the feelings it contains and expressed is cross the space and cross the time, and it's endless. So that's the 宋词. Just like the pop songs, the 宋词 always comes with a music, predefined patterns, sentence patterns could be seen as always, and the language is more tend to be like the oral language, this makes it more popular. In the content is more depict on the personal feelings, the lives, the sceneries, the natural sceneries. So it's more easily accepted by the normal people. And I think this is also because the Song dynasty is a decaying dynasty, so they don't have the too much of the scopes. I mean, in the time and space and the conquerings and the geography expandings. Later on they almost in the south of the Yangtze. Not like the Tang dynasty. There's all kinds of things. So someone said the Tang poem is the peak, and someone said Song poem is a peak. It's hard to tell. But for me, I'm always the fan of Tang poetry, and also my hometown was used to be the capital of Tang, Chang'an, and today is Xi'an. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this poem, or this 宋词. Someone insists on 宋词 is not belong to the poem. Okay, but I think it's all the best part of the Chinese classic poems. Have a nice day, and bye-bye.